everyone, it's Bijal. I am here on my Tuesday Live, and today the topic is going to be, is your business living up to your revenue potential? And this is a theme. I always feel like there are themes that happen within the week and they kind of pop up. So this is what we're going to address today. I am just going to wait for a few people to hop on here. I hope you're having an awesome Tuesday. It is the beginning of August, so this is the perfect time to start thinking about what your revenue goals for the month of August are going to be, with a constraint of what is your profit margin, and net profit margin on top of that. So I see many businesses kind of focus on a general number, but without that constraint there. So we're going to get into that and talk about that. And then also I have a really awesome bonus sales tip for you. It's something that's been coming up for me and I wanted to share it out with you guys because I think it'll really help. So let me know when you're here. Drop me some comments. Feel free to ask any questions. So the first prompt is your business living up to your revenue goals? And this can be one of the most frustrating parts of a business. The sales piece, the prospecting piece, and then also getting the actual conversations that you have, strategy sessions, actually converted so that you can continue to collect your revenue. Your hope is that after you're collecting that revenue, once you get to that point, you'll be able to hire somebody on, you'll be able to address your branding needs, you're going to then be able to, move forward and scale your business like you hoped. And so one of the major things you can look at when you're thinking about your revenue goals and where they are at, you can think about the fact that, am I making progress or am I kind of staying even month after month, which isn't a bad goal if that standard is where you want it to be? Or are you using the current situation of COVID and saying, oh, well, this is happening because of that. I would have been doing better, but then COVID caused me to slow down. And so are you using those excuses? So that's one of the first things you need to address is, who are you being? Because that's going to completely reflect and affect your actual sales part, and which is going to affect your revenue at the end of the month. So who are you being in order to actually accomplish those sales goals? One of the things that I notice and see a lot of in businesses that are struggling, they may have hit a consistent month and a consistent platform where they're at a certain amount of income a month and they feel really happy about that and they feel good about that, but then they struggle and they hit a block to get to the next level of income. And what that usually sends a signal is out to people that you either need to scale, add, look more professional in terms of your branding so that you can actually appeal out to people so that they're naturally attracted to come to you. So that's one of the biggest misses I see in brands and companies when they end up at a certain status quo and they are stuck at that level and they're not increasing past that. So the question you have to turn around and ask yourself is, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? And if you're waiting for the chicken to have the egg and you're also waiting for the egg to become a chicken, guess what? You are stuck. You are a business owner that's stuck. You're being indecisive and you are just hoping for something to change. So one of the easiest ways you can snap your revenue into a higher platform is by addressing your branding and making sure that it is coming across extremely professional. It is clearly and concisely telling your market what you do and why they should pick you. So there's at least going to be 100 different people that are offering exactly what you're offering. Now, if you've got a warm audience, you have completely a leg up. That you might have had a referral, you might have a recommendation, you might have been exposed to them through a networking event or seen them on a podcast. That warm person is way more ready to buy into you. They already believe you. There's a segment of trust. But when there's somebody cold who's coming across your screen and seeing that you offer something that they want and they need, but they have no sort of connection to you. So the only piece that can help warm them up and bring them in is having a completely solid brand that represents what your company is, who you are, what your values are, and how are you going to help them. So I can't emphasize that enough. There are like $500 billion being spent on online marketing right now. And it's either up to you to be ahead of that curve and come out on top, or to be falling behind. You're actually doing one or the other. I don't know if any of you guys like use a Peloton or use the Hydro, but there is a competitive screen. So when you're spinning or you're using a Hydro machine or you're using Peloton, there's a live scoreboard and it literally constantly updates on where you're at. So I want you to pretend there is a live scoreboard of your revenue, of your sales. How are you doing in your marketplace? Are you dominating or are you being dominated? Now, the second one just hurts. It just hurts because you're probably really good at what you do. And then here you are on the live scoreboard and you find yourself slipping and you're making excuses of why, or you might just be confused. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to spend on. So drop me a comment. Let me know you're here. I love to have a live audience. So let me know you're watching. What do you find valuable out of what I've mentioned so far? Because these are all very critical foundational elements. So Tracy's on here and she says she loves the chicken and the egg stuck analogy. It's one that we use often when we're stuck in a catch-22. And I do see that a lot of people, when it comes to their business, assign revenue issues directly to their sales team. The sales team is the issue. That's the problem. If I could only get my sales director to like close more. And I think that that's putting a lot of burden onto somebody. It's like blaming your whole relationship on your spouse. You just can't do that, right? Everyone knows that's not really both sides of the story. So you have to look at the picture overall. So let me say hey to some people. Again, let me know if you're here and if you've got some comments or questions on what we're covering. I'm going to say hey to Tracy, hey to Corey, hey to Manju Foy is here watching, so I appreciate that. So that's one of the biggest things, is coming up and coming out professional. And I cannot tell you how much of a business I've made for myself by seeing so many people trying to DIY their brand in Canva. And it actually hurts me, because you're awesome at what you do, but that is not your jam. Like, there is a very small segment of population that I can honestly say, I look at their brand, they DIY'd it, and I'm like, dang, you are like a graphic designer. You've got a talent for this. Literally 98% of the people are not there. Like, I was just watching on a comment from somebody who's very extremely successful at sales. And on his post, he basically has a banner of something random colors with an image of him, and it doesn't work at all. It literally doesn't look good at all. And he asked everyone what they thought, but it's his fan base who doesn't know anything from left to right, and so they kind of love everything about him. So they all said yes. And I like piped in and said, why'd you pick these colors? He's like, because I like them. I saw them on other people's sites and I liked them. And I was like, what in the world does that have to do with attracting your clients and your avatar and your personal brand? So I might have poked that bear a little bit and like continued to ask questions, and I probably should have just backed up the truck. But you know what? He's a very successful person, so I just felt the need to be like, why are you doing this, right? So I can't tell you how much I see this. So a few more people on here. Hey, Chelsea. Hey, Hong. Nice to have you on here. Hong is saying, I don't want to be dominated. Well, I mean, I think you're on the right path, Hong. But that's true. I mean, it is true with the revenue. And so I've just seen so many people stuck. And I just want to say, there, it's right in front of you. You're showing up a certain way. So when you show up like you're worth $300, you attract $300 clients. And the other thing that happens is when you are showing up as a $300 brand, when you are closing and converting, you are just spending all of your energy on these like low ticket people, and that prevents you from scaling. So that was one of the biggest things I wanted to address generally about revenue. And now I want to get into the sales tip I was talking about. So give me some comments here. Tell me, how many of you guys have been on a strategy session or a sales call? How many of you guys have been in a situation where you think it's going well, you might be following a script, and then they start asking you, how are you going to do this? So I'm just going to wait for a second and let the comments catch up. The question is, when you've been on a sales call, how many times have you gotten to this situation where the person stops and asks you, how are you actually going to do this? Do, 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 do. Okay. Nobody has been in this situation. Well, if you haven't, you will be at one point in time or another, or the comments could be lagging. That happens as well. So I'm going to roll with it. So this is a huge red flag. So when you're on a sales call and you think everything is hunky-dory and the person stops you and says, well, how are you going to actually do that? Can you tell me more about your process? Well, no, that sounds really good, but these are all huge red flags. These are huge red flags. What that means is those how questions are actually objections. And they are coming across friendly, and they are, they're trying to respect the fact that you're the expert, but there is a lack of clarity in what you've explained. And there's a lack of confidence in your ability to deliver that. Because let me tell you something. If they are 100% clear that you're the expert on what you're doing, and they are confident in your ability to deliver that, the how question doesn't really happen. And if the how question happens, the is acceptable and not a huge red flag is if they stop and they just want to know what the framework of the offer is. They might just want to know, oh, is it 4 weeks? Is it 5 weeks? Is it group or is it not? But I can tell you that if you get into that position and your back is up against the wall and they're asking you how, what that immediately does to most of us, and I used to make this mistake all the time. So I would immediately start to explain to them all of the ins and outs of what a branding process is and what it took and what files I would use and what program we would go through and how each meeting would go. And immediately the person would start to look glossy-eyed. And I could even see them. We're on Zoom and I'm like losing them. And I can't stop because then I think, oh no, they need a better explanation. So what that does is it puts me in the position where I'm showing them all my sausage making in the background. And I'll tell you here, this is the secret for the day. People do not want to know your sausage making of how you make your offer happen and how you deliver it to them. They really and truly do not care. They don't want to see it. They're not interested in your jargon, and they really don't want to know your process. So I just want you, as you're moving forward and you're on these calls, when you hear a how call, try to stop, reframe it to a what call, a what question. So you would say, if they were like, well, how does your process actually work with your offer? Say, oh yeah, sure, absolutely. We can get back to that. We'll address that. Let me just get through a few more of these questions and then let me know if that question still comes up. And start hitting home on the what. Start explaining, hey, you've got this issue. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then here is what we're going to do for you. After you're done with this program, you're not going to have this pain. You're not going to have that pain. And then you're not going to have this pain at the end of it. How does that sound? So it comes back to understanding the fact that when they said how, they meant, are you sure this is going to work? But they're not going to say that. They respect you to some level of degree and they're being polite. But that's what they're asking. And the other piece of that is at the end of your call, If you end up getting into the how, you just didn't pin it down. You didn't pin down the pain enough in the beginning of the call. You do not ever, I say this over and over again, and I'll say it again, you do not ever lose a sale at the end. You lost the sale in the middle. You lost the sale in the middle. You do not lose the sale at the end. I don't care what your offer is, how much it costs, 2 pay, 3 pay, no pay, group, not group, whatever it is. That's not when you lose it. You lost it in the middle. So you've got to be extremely emotionally intelligent when you're talking to somebody and you're in that sales conversation. You've got to pick up on their nuances. You have to check in with them. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions? May I coach you on that? You've got to get into it so that you can prevent yourself from at the very end when you're getting ready to potentially make an offer and they bust out the how. So that's kind of what I wanted to address today, because the how questions put you into the state of having to prove your credentials, having to support what you actually know. It generally causes you to start speaking faster because you are being thrown off kilter. And you don't want to be on a sales call having to prove up what you actually know you can do. The sales conversation is only there for you to be able to connect and see if the person's a good fit and can you help them with what you have. So that's all it is. But when, like anybody, any human, when someone starts to question how, it flips the script on you, and it makes you lose control of the call, and it makes them in charge of questioning you, of checking up on your credentials. You start saying testimonials, this, that, and the other thing. You might say that this is a beta offer, and then you're talking too fast. You're losing even more confidence. So I just wanted to point that out. When you get those how and technical questions, don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. I know we all love the technical questions because it's what we know how to do. We're super good at it. Talk about it all dang day. Your person who's buying your offer doesn't care, because if they understand and loved the technicals as much as you did, guess what? You guys would be competitors. You guys would not be on a sales call where you're selling that. So that's what I wanted to cover today is if you're having revenue blocks, be real, take a look at your branding. If that's something that you see as an issue, please address it. Just please address it. I promise that you will see a major difference. I'm actually going to share out a story of one of my clients who has made 3 times the revenue goals they had set after they released with their new branding package. So it works. It's not something I came up with. It's just marketing and 101. How you show up is how people treat you. So let me know if you have any other questions. I'm going to read off some of these comments. Looks like my friend Yasha does like to be dominated. We'll have to get on his wife here, get his wife on here and see what that means. So Tracy says, gulp, that might be the fear that is keeping me stuck. Okay, Tracy, can you tell me more about that? The fear that's keeping you stuck. So I think Tracy means when I was talking about when somebody asks you the how. Yeah, I mean, I can 100% see that because it puts you on the spot and says, are you really good at what you're doing? And if you're like many people, you have a sense of imposter syndrome until proven otherwise. And so as entrepreneurs, sometimes we're the hardest on ourselves in terms of our skill set. We want it to be proven, like undeniably, that we can do this. And, we're all out of grade school. Like, you don't get an A anymore. You don't get an A for what you do. You just have to know you're good at, and you have to keep showing up. So I think that's what she alluded to here. So Yasha was asking, how are you going to do this? Not sure what you mean. 20-minute monologue ensues. I'm not sure what you mean, Yasha. Can you explain that to me? And then he said, no, don't show me the sausage. Oh, I missed some comments here. Yeah, so Yasha was just saying I prefer the end result. So fear of being challenged on the how. Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially it depends, and I will say this as well, it's a little bit of a female-male dynamic as well. This is just leftover stuff from whatever you want to say, gender roles. But when you're the female, Tracy, on the call and you're selling to the male, depending on your personality, like whether you're passive or generally more assertive, or how you've been trained. And then the male might be also way more like assertive and might be even taking over your sales call, even though they wanted to hire you. Especially, I know the industry you're in. I mean, you might be dealing with like legit cowboys who are like, well, what is she going to tell me about anything? And so I think with that type of person, you just have to be really careful on your tone and your body language. So you want to like sit up proud, even kind of how I'm sitting right now. I actually sit with my arms spread out because I'm a petite female. And so I make my shoulders look a little bit broader. I deepen my voice, even though my voice is already a little deeper. I didn't know that. Somebody told me in grad school. Deepen your voice a little bit. And then also just talk really slow and be very succinct. So one of the major things in the how is over explaining. So you can explain the how. So somebody asked me, I'll give you an example. This happens to me sometimes, maybe half the calls. So how is this actually going to work, the branding thing? And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, got it. You want to know how we're going to do this? So immediately I question them and I say, you want to know how we're going to do this? I don't say it like that, quite that intense, but I'm kind of like, you want to know why? As in like, does it matter? Like, do you care? Like, does it make any difference to you? And so what that happens is, so they immediately now are doubting themselves. So that's good. That's what I want to do. I want to do, okay, we're going to address this question, but it really doesn't matter, but we will just check it off the list. I'm extremely abbreviated with it. I say, it's a 5-week program. It's one-on-one, and we're going to start off with the brand coaching, and you're going to end with a bunch of deliverables. And I shut up. And I just shut up. And I sit there awkwardly looking into the camera, and they're like, did it freeze? And I'm like, nope. And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, cool. And then I wait for them to ask me what the package price is. And I can tell you, I straight up do not give certain people offers. And I tell them, I'm like, you know what? You're not ready. I just say that. And I pause again. And they're like, let it kind of hit them. And most of the time at this point, they're agreeing. So I'm not going to put somebody in the position where they feel like they need this. They know they can't afford it or have some money mindset issues, some other issues that they need to work out. I'm not going to put them in the position to tell me no when I know it should be yes. So I just say, hey, listen, I would love to work with you in the future, but you're not ready for that yet. You're not ready for this yet. Like, we've got to get you to a place where your mind is clear, you're feeling more confident, where you're clear-headed, where the money isn't strapped around your neck and you're getting choked out. And we will, like, let's stop and evaluate. Let's see how we can get you there. So one thing I'm thinking you can do, and boom, I immediately switch it to a homework assignment that I come up with on the fly. And I have a few that work really well for me. But it's genuinely grounded in how I can help the person. So sometimes they've got money mindset issues. Sometimes they have a block with something traumatic that happened in their business. I don't think you have to be an expert scientist to figure it out. We're all biased towards ourselves. So I give them a homework assignment at that point in time. And then what I do, so they take it down, I make sure they write it down because I can't tell you how often people can forget. Now, the homework assignment is 2 parts. The homework assignment shows them that I have their best interest in mind, which is like 100% true. The second thing is the homework assignment creates some kind of connection between us. Like, I care about you. I want to see you grow. And here's a method how to do it. And I make it short and simple. It's never going to take longer than 30 minutes, the homework I assign. I know the person is generally overwhelmed, so I'm not going to throw them something that just makes them more uncomfortable or that they're not going to do. So I do that. And then after that, I say, and then I just kind of judge it based on how we were feeling and how the conversation was going. And then I say, how about we go ahead and follow up, like in 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is. Or sometimes if the person is just really far away from where their goalpost is and they just look like defeated, I'll say, you know what? This will happen in time. Don't worry. Like, let's get your eggs in order. Back to the egg analogy. I mean, apparently I want like an egg breakfast or something like that. So I get the eggs back in line and then I go, I'm not going anywhere. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I'm still here. Like, we're good. Like, when you're ready for the branding stuff, you can come back around. Don't worry about it. And I do that for a reserved case of people. I'm not telling you to give away your sales and all of that, but there are a group of people that at the end of the sales call, you have to remember they're humans too. They might want to actually hire you and be embarrassed that they don't have the revenue or cash on hand to just pay you. Like, you might have convinced them 1000% that you are their guy or girl, but they just don't have the money and they're not comfortable pulling out of debt. And you don't know their whole story, the whole saga. Wife gets mad at them because he's putting something on the credit card again. Like, you don't want to get into that. You want to be supportive. And so when you can let them down easy, give them a homework assignment to show you care, and then just kind of back away so they don't have to feel awkward. Like, save them face. If you know they're not going to buy, if you know they're going to like fall over at your offer, don't put yourself in a weaker position. So I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. So I'll just say the revenue, if you're having revenue issues, you are either, it's a live score. So I'm going to recap here because we're at the end of the time. So there is a revenue scoreboard that's out there. So, and I'm not actually a very big sports person, but I am a competitive person. And so I think this analogy will hit home for you. There is a live scoreboard of how your revenue and your sales are going. So you are either dominating or being dominated or somewhere in the middle. So make sure you know where you're at, because that's the only way that you can then decide who you're going to be so that you can then make changes. The second thing is take a hard look at your branding and do not do this willy-nilly, I think I like these colors, like, oh, please. Definitely don't be my friend and do it, because if you ask me what I think, you're going to get a comment. And if it's awesome and somebody else did it, I will absolutely say that. But if it sucks, you're going to probably hear it. Because you need to know, because you're not going to make money otherwise, or you're going to make less than you could have. The second thing is, do not unveil your sausage making to your prospects. They don't want to know. When they ask you a how question, in your mind say, objection, objection. Do not take the bait of a how question. Do not get geeked up on your offer. Do not go into the technicals of whatever you do. They don't care. They don't care. You can go into your technicals once you have them as a client. You can do that if you would like. And the third point I was making is that at the end of the sales call, don't always offer. You don't always need to offer. Make them ask you what the package is, what the price is, and then you decide from your gut and your position of leadership whether this person should be offered and is ready to go, or if they need a pause and need to be given some homework assignments so you can keep up with them and continue with them. So anyways, tying it all together, because sales, revenue, branding, it all really goes together. It ties together. So I'm excited about, I'm going to share that story with you guys about my client who's making 3 times their revenue. That stuff gets me jacked up on the Mountain Dew. So I appreciate y'all's comments, you coming on here. If I can't answer any questions, let me know. As always, hit me up with the hashtag replay, and I will be on next week on Friday. Take care.